Hi, everybody. It's Anthony Fletcher. Thanks for coming to my channel today. We're going to be talking a little bit about buying a home on your terms. That's something that a lot of people kind of have asked me about, like, how do I get the deal that I want? A lot of people are kind of scared to do that. So I thought what I would do this video is go over some major questions that maybe you should be asking yourself and also talking with your realtor about and your lender about so that you can get the best deal possible. Now, if you haven't subscribed to my video yet, please do so because it's really, really important to me to see if I can help you out as much as possible. And the more people that get access to the video, the more good information they can get. Now, today, as far as the questions that we're going to be discussing today is particularly have to do with questions that you should be talking to your realtor about in order to buy a specific house. Now, realtors are paid by the seller, supposedly. That's what they might tell you is, yes, the seller pays the real estate fees. And so you would think that that comes out of the seller's check. But however, you're the one, when you go get the loan, it's your loan that gets the money to give the seller to pay both the realtors and the lender out there. So you got to remember that it really kind of comes down to you and that they should all be working really hard to make sure that you, the set buyer, are going to be able to get that house. And sometimes it'll work where the seller is really interested in working with you, and other times they may not, and that's okay. It's just kind of depends on, where the seller is. So let's go through these questions and we'll kind of talk about it a little bit more. So what it really, really comes down to is what you got to think about it is all about, it's about putting your offer so that the seller says yes. Okay. Now that sounds kind of strange, but it's basically you need to put your offer together so the seller thinks your offer is the best offer that works for everybody. A great example is we were purchasing a house about 2 years ago, and it was a great house. It was old. It needed to be worked on, and it was coming from somebody that was retired, and it was a hoarder house, and there was all sorts of stuff in there and work to do. And we went up against probably close to 40 different people in order to buy this house. Now, our goal was to make the house livable house so that one day we can move into it. And at the same time, there were all these builders that wanted to buy the house, tear it down. All these people, these other people wanted to do this work. And what we did is that we made sure that we found out the specifics that the people that were living in the house, they needed an extra 30 days. We found out our offer wasn't the highest offer, so we bumped it just to the level of the highest other offer out there. And then what we found out was that what they were really wanting is that when they moved out, we were to take whatever trash was left over, we would take care of. They didn't have to clean out the house. So, and also, we didn't have an inspection, inspection contingency, in other words, that we would waive that. So we knew all throughout the process of the house that we were going to have to fix everything and do all this stuff, but it was what got us the house. So that's kind of the reason why it was getting those people to be able to say yes. And how we did that is by having our realtor talk to their realtor talking to their seller. So here's some of the questions. You want to find out what the price is now and what the listing price history is. Why did they reduce the price if they've already had the house? And do they have any equity in there? Okay. Also ask questions of who are they? Are they people that are first-time home buyers? Or are they people that are retired? Is it somebody that had passed away and is part of the inheritance that they need to sell? Or maybe it's a renter that rental company that owns it. They're just trying to get rid of it. So, and why are they selling? And so a lot of times, you learn to kind of like what was happening in my case. Maybe sometimes it could be something like a retired couple leaving a two-story house or a one-story house, and they want to move to the house of their dreams, and they already have the house of their dream locked up, but they just don't have, the right buyer yet, but they have to get out. So maybe that's the situation. Um, so or maybe they're moving up or down. So maybe it's somebody else that's moving, they're buying, this was their first house and they're buying the next house, and their next house is going to close early. So now they got to sell the house. So the cleaner the deal that you can put together that matches what they're trying to do will help them say yes. Okay, other offers out there. So that's a good question. So ask your realtor out there, to ask the listing agent, were there any other offers out there? What were their offers? Were there any negotiations for seller concessions are out there? Was there any price reductions? Was there anything that needed to be fixed? Why did that other offer go bad? The more you know, once again, the better it is. And then, what motivates them? Are they motivated? Are they motivated by cash and closing early? Maybe it's a scenario where they, are waiting for their house, their other house to close, and they want to sell and they want their money, but they want a couple more months before they move into the house. And so, once again, asking all these questions is really, really good. Next thing, closing, how soon? So like we talked about, ask them if they need to close quickly. And if you can close quickly, do that. But also you need to figure out what your terms are going to be, what works out for you. And sometimes, for example, they may or may not have enough money at the sale of the house to lower the price for $50,000. If you want, let's say the price has been reduced from 350 to 300, and they owe 299,000, and you want to reduce another $10,000, that's just not going to happen. So that's not going to be the house for you. But if there is that equity, try to find out the reason. Maybe that's a motivator. Maybe you can close quicker and they'll be happier and they can get out sooner, and that might be worth an extra $5,000 to them. Now, a big question is your realtor and lender on board? And so what I mean by that is this, is that your lender you're going to tell your lender everything, and they're privy to all your information, and they have a fiduciary responsibility to act in your best behalf. Your realtor also has a responsibility to act in your behalf. Now, are they talking back and forth? So if you only have 3% down to put down on a house, is your lender telling your realtor, yes, they only have 3% down? And is your realtor then going to the listing agent and asking them, would you accept an offer of 3% down, and maybe the seller paying for the closing costs, maybe $6,000 or $10,000? And how they find that out is they go back to the loan officer, and the loan officer says, yes, I can get an approval based off of this way. So then they can go back to the listing agent and say, I got a great offer coming in. Here's the scenario. We're going to give your sellers 60 days to live in the property, and we're going to come in your terms. The only thing we're going to ask for is some money for closing costs, so we're going to bump up the price a little bit to make that work. Would that work for them? And that's a way of being able to create a yes response. And if your realtor is involved and your lender is involved, then you'll have a good deal to present to the seller. Okay, and then final question is, how long do you want to keep this house? So if you're going to keep it only for a short term, a couple of years, 1 or 2 years, there may not be enough money for the equity to grow. So you're probably going to have to, get as lowest price as possible. But if you are going to be in 10, 20 years, keep the house for that long, well, equity is going to continue to grow. So by saving $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 now, it's not going to make that big of a difference 20 years from now. So just think about that and what the real implications of, a few $1,000s. It may not be worth trying to really put the hammer down on the seller if you're going to keep the house for 20 years, and you might, get $60,000, $80,000, $100,000, $120,000 of equity in that property. What's $2,000? Not that big of a deal. So what I've done now is I've created an actual scenario for you to look at over on this other side, and I thought it might be good for you to view this with me. So here's a particular house here. You can see it's a great house you found, and the sellers are an elderly couple. They're looking about moving out of this house and finding their dream house and at another place. And they're selling this house for $300,000. So their particular situation, it was listed for 300, and it was at one time at 350, but they couldn't get an offer at 350. So they reduced it to 300. Now they have equity on this house at $140,000. And the seller they want their new home. It's going to cost them $500,000 and they want to close as soon as possible. Now, the one thing is their new home isn't going to be ready for another couple months. So they want the money to pay off some other debt, but at the same time, they want to stay in their house. So you go into this, it's May 3rd, and you go and want to write this offer. And here's your story. So this is you, 2 months left in your existing rental property, and you have a new job that starts in August, right around the corner from this house, a new salary job. So congratulations. But you only have a down payment of 3%, and you have no money for closing costs. But you have very strong credit. So great job in keeping that credit there. So here's how you would work this out. You would talk with your realtor and talk with your lender and maybe come up with this scenario. You set the closing on June 3rd, so it meets the seller's close date. So that's one yes that meets for them. And you make a sales price of $310 instead of $300, and they pay for $10,000 with your closing costs and gives you some extra money so they can pay for your interest for your first month. So that meets one of your deals. Now the seller, like we said, the seller's concessions for $10,000. Now the first payment is going to be due in August. Okay, so you're not going to have a first payment due till August, but the seller is going to do a rent back for 60 days. So that means the seller is going to be in there for all of June and all of July and leave July 31st so that you can move in the property August 1st for your new job. So in essence, for your first payment that's due in August, the seller's rent back, which means that they're going to give you money for rent, pays for the month of July and pays for the month of June. So now your first payment that you'll have to make out of your pocket won't be till September, and you'll have your first month's worth of rent in there. So that's a way of putting it all together to make everybody happy and create a yes through the seller and create a wonderful transaction. So I hope you like this video. Thanks for coming to my channel. Hit that like button and hit the subscribe button. I sure appreciate that so much. And if you do like this video, please share it to some other people that you might think that might benefit. Hey, thanks for coming again, and I sure appreciate it. We'll see you again in my next video. Bye now.